Hello and welcome at Football Analytics. My name is Mark and let's talk about football, baby. Well, let's have a look at nations that could become maybe even world champion, win the World Cup in 2022 or 2026. Nations that we don't think about at first. So at the moment I don't want to talk about Brazil, Spain, Germany, England, France, Italy and so on. These are nations that everybody talks about when speaking about a possible World Cup champion in football. Let's have a look at other nations where you might think at the moment, well, never. They will never win the World Cup. But maybe they will win it. At first, let's have a look at Côte d'Ivoire or the Ivory Coast in Africa. It's a nation that had a great time, a great generation from maybe 2006 till 2014. Players like Drogba, they are really well known and of course, he was world class. Now, let's have a look at the Ivory Coast at the moment, and let's start with the position forwards. Left winger could be Wilfried Zaha. He's 28 years old. He plays for Crystal Palace. His market value is around 45 million euros, so that's really huge. He's 28, so the World Cup 22 could be his last chance to really shine on a World Cup. In 26 he could be too old. Right winger could be Nicolas Pepe. He also plays in the Premier League for Arsenal London, 26 years old. Market value 35 million euros, so this is a great player as well. And center forward should be Sébastien Haller. He played in the Bundesliga in Germany, he played in the Premier League, and now at the moment he plays for Ajax Amsterdam in the Netherlands. He's 27 years old and his market value suits very well, 27 million euros. So this is a great center forward, I think, with a great body. And, Nicolas Pepe and Wilfried Zaha, they can dribble very fast and well. So these are really three strong forwards that could shine on World Cup 22. In 26, maybe all three could be too old, or there will be players who will be maybe better or even much better than these three players are at the moment. So 22 is their tournament. This is their time. Zaha, Pepe and Haller, these are really three great forwards for an African nation, I guess. But behind them there are also great players. Let's have a look at Jeremy Boga, left winger, so he could replace Wilfried Zaha. Boga is just 24 years old. He plays in Italy for Sassuolo. His market value is around 20 million euros. He can dribble so fast and so good. And the right winger, well, Amad Diallo, he's just 19 years old. He plays for Manchester United. At the moment he's hurt, and well, it's really difficult for him to get his playing time, because on the right wing there could be Ronaldo for Manchester United, so maybe he should leave Manchester United in order to get more playing time. But he's so talented. He's such a great talent. He could develop into a world-class player during the next years. I'm really sure, and I really appreciate the way Amad Diallo plays. So this is such a great football player. And center forward, well, we have also Christian Courmet. He played in Italy at the moment. He plays for Anderlecht in Belgium. Just 23 years old. There are further on players that could be interesting, but let's just talk about another very, very young player with, I think, great potential at center forward, probably for the time after Sébastien Haller. Let's talk about Karim Konate. So he's just 17 years old at the moment. He already played for the Ivory Coast. So this is a new player with great potential. Watch out for Karim Konate. He could join a European club during the next years, and he could develop into a really great center forward. I think so. So the forwards from Côte d'Ivoire are quite nice. Let's talk about midfielders. Who's at the midfield? So let's guess we play with one attacking midfielder and maybe two defensive midfielders. Attacking midfielder should be Hamed Junior Traoré, also only just 21 years young. He plays as Boga for Sassuolo in Italy. His market value is around 20 million euros. One might think he will go to Juventus Turin or some other teams, but still he decided to stay at Sassuolo. This is another great player with enormous potential. At first he played at defensive midfield, so at defensive he can really work as well. Good, and he can shoot the ball very, very hard and precise. He can dribble. It's really a great player to watch. So watch out for Hamed Junior Traoré. And defensive midfielder, of course, we have Franck Kessié. He plays for Milano. And his market value is about or around 55 million euros. That's really, really much. He's 24 years old and of course a great player. Second defensive midfielder, I would say, should be Ibrahim Sangaré, 23 years old. He plays for Eindhoven in the Netherlands. He's also a big and great player, and I really appreciate watching him. Who's there also? Well, Jean-Philippe Gamin, 26 years old. He played in Germany for Mainz. Really, really great. He could also be a right defender, but he was hurt during the last year or even years at Everton in England, so we don't know which way he will go. He has to stay without hurts, without physical problems. Then he could be an important part for the Ivory Coast. We also have Seko Fofana, a central midfielder. He could replace Traoré, he could replace Sangaré or Kessié. It's also a very interesting player to watch. He plays in France for Lens, and 26 years old, 12 million euro market value. There are also more players like Akpa Akpro from Lazio, Rome, Serie, Fulham, Ahulu, Strasbourg, Maiga, Metz. So these are quite nice players, but they don't have the class that Kessié has or that Junior Traoré has. So midfielders, it's also nice to watch from Côte d'Ivoire. What about the defenders? So this is also really, really nice to see. Right back, we have Serge Aurier. He's 20 years old. He's 28 years old now. He plays in Spain for Villarreal. Market value is around 15 million euros, and he could be replaced by Wilfried Singo, another right back, just 20 years old. He plays in Italy for Torino. Market value 7 million, but this will rise so much because Singo is such a great right back. He's fast, he has so much dynamic, and it's a pleasure to watch him. Left back, well, Maxwell Cornet, we had him listed as a forward. He plays in England, so Maxwell Cornet should be our left back. We have alternatives in Hassane Kamara. He's 27 years old. He plays for Nice. He's a small player, and he hoped to play for Équipe Tricolore, for the French national football team, but they didn't choose him, so he decided, well, okay, let's play for Côte d'Ivoire. And we also have Ghislain Conan. He's also a good left back. He plays in France as well, 25 years old. And then let's have a look at the center backs. We have here with 30 years old Willy Boly. He plays for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Market value 10 million euros. He's big, strong, and Bailey, everyone knows Eric Bailey. I think he plays for Manchester United. Sadly, he's hurt often as well. But 27 years old, market value around 10 million euros. This could be his World Cup as well. Boli will be too old in 2026, so this is his time as well, 2022. Odilon Kusunu is another center back. He could play as defensive midfielder as well. He's just 20 years young, and he plays for Bayer Leverkusen in the German Bundesliga. His market value is the highest from the defenders with 23 million. And let's also have a look at Sinali Diomande, also just 20 years old. So this is also the future for Côte d'Ivoire. He plays in France for Olympique Lyon, 7 million market value. I really think that his market value will rise during the next years as well. He could play as right back also if needed. So the Côte d'Ivoire has great forwards, good midfielders, great defenders. So could they win the World Cup? Well, I have to say no, and that's really because of the goalkeeper or the goalkeepers. The coach Patrice Baumel chooses Sylvain Gourou as their goalkeeper with a market value of only 325,000 euros. His current club is Volkite Ketema. Well, if you don't know the club, most people would agree. This is not a very famous club, and Sylvain Gourou is really, I have to say, not a great goalkeeper, and if you think of world-class goalkeepers, they are so much better than Gourou. But what could be the alternatives? I would choose Mande Sayuba. He's 28 years old. He often sits on the bench for Odense Bold Club, so, well, playing time is not his advantage, I have to admit. So I can understand the coach Baumel a little bit, that he chooses someone who really plays regularly. But Mande Sayuba is a good goalkeeper. He was a really strong goalkeeper in Norway. 1 year he was goalkeeper of the year, and now in Denmark he doesn't play regularly. That's his biggest problem. But the potential of Sayuba is the greatest, in my opinion. We have Hillel Konate, Axel Kaku, who play in the second or third French division. They don't even play regularly, so it's really difficult to choose one of them as the goalkeeper. Badra Ali Sangare is 35 years old and also not the greatest goalkeeper. The potential is high, or should be high, for Nicolas Thier. He played for FC Chelsea during former years. He played in the academy, but now he's 20 years old, and last year's summer 2020 he went to Portugal, to Vitória Guimarães, but he just sits on the bench for the second team of Guimarães. So development is really unsure. Let's have a look at him during the next years. 22 will be too soon for Nicolas Thier. Maybe in 2026 he will be the goalkeeper for Côte d'Ivoire. We also have Tape. He played during the Olympics for Côte d'Ivoire. He's 24 years old. He still plays at San Pedro, FC San Pedro at Côte d'Ivoire. So, well, I don't know if he can become a great goalkeeper or not. He's a good penalty saver, that's what I can say. But, well, if he can grow into a world-class keeper, I will really doubt it. So let's have also a quick look at players who could have played for the Ivory Coast, or who could still play for the Ivory Coast. Well, who could have played or who could have chosen the Ivory Coast? The two Germans, Serge Gnabry on the one hand and Jonathan Tah on the other hand. These are two players who could have chosen Côte d'Ivoire. Also Mose Keane, but he plays for Italy. Nathan Ake for the Netherlands. Yves Bissouma, he plays for Mali. And Timoe Bakayoko has played one time for France. So these are players who could really have a great impact on Côte d'Ivoire, and it's sad for Côte d'Ivoire that they didn't choose this national team. But we also have some players like Jonathan Bamber. He's 25 years old with a market value of 25 million euros. Or Marc Guéhi, who could still choose the Ivory Coast, but I think during the next months or during the next year he will play for the Three Lions. There are also some further players who could choose the Ivory Coast. Angelo Fulgini is a player where many people talk about. He could choose the Ivory Coast, and of course he would be a good addition. He is 25 years old, a central midfielder, and his market value is around 12 million euros. So let's talk about the qualification. It's really difficult to qualify in Africa. At first, these teams like Côte d'Ivoire play in a group. This time it's Group D, with Mozambique, with Malawi, and with Cameroon. So they at first they have to win this group. So they have 6 games at home against these 3 teams, and they have to travel to these 3 nations. At the moment, after 4 games, Côte d'Ivoire has 10 points and Cameroon has 9 points. But one of the last 2 games for Côte d'Ivoire will be a game at Cameroon. So if Cameroon will win against Côte d'Ivoire, it's really with a great possibility we can say that Cameroon will qualify for the playoffs at Group D, and Côte d'Ivoire will be out of the World Cup. So Côte d'Ivoire needs a point against Cameroon and another win, so they could win Group D. But even if they win Group D, it's still unsure if they could qualify for the World Cup 2022, because after that they will have two qualification matches against another group winner from the African groups. So a possible team they will meet could be Algeria or Nigeria, Egypt, Mali, or the Senegal, for example. So Morocco would be a really, really tough opponent as well. So then they had the qualification with 1 game at home and 1 game at the opponent. So it's really, really unsure if Côte d'Ivoire can qualify for World Cup 22. But if they manage to do it, then I'm really optimistic that they will survive the group stage, that Côte d'Ivoire will be one of the best 16 football teams in the world. Can they also reach the quarterfinals? Well, I guess even this is possible for this team, because Côte d'Ivoire has so many great players. But lately, after reaching the quarterfinals, I don't think that there's much more possible for this team because of the problematics or the problems at the goalkeeper position. Teams like Brazil, France, Spain, and so on have great players on field as well, and a great goalkeeper, and this could be decisive. If Côte d'Ivoire hasn't got a good goalkeeper, they can't win the World Cup. It's easy as that. And so in 2022, Côte d'Ivoire can't win the World Cup. Let's have a look in 4 years later, in 2026. Well, let's have a look at all players from Côte d'Ivoire. So 5 years, nearly 5 years to go. Who will be too old? Wilfried Zaha could be too old, but there could be Jeremy Boga as his replacement. Sébastien Haller could be too old, but there could be Karim Konaté, or another player like Christian Kouamé at center forward. Nicolas Pepe shouldn't be too old, but in 5 years Amad Diallo should be better and higher rated as Pepe. So Serge Aurier could be also too old, but well, we already talked about it. Wilfried Zingo would be a great replacement. So there are a lot of young players that could really develop into world-class players. Think of Kusunu, he's 20, Hamed Junior Traoré, 21, Amad Diallo, 19, maybe even Karim Konaté. So there are really, really young players, and also players that we already know very well, like Franck Cassier. He's 24, so in 5 years he would be 29. That's not too old to play a great World Cup tournament. So in 2026, the Ivory Coast, if they manage to qualify for the World Cup, they can reach the quarterfinals as well, or at least be one of the best 16 teams in the world. I don't know who will be the goalkeeper in 2026. If they have a good goalkeeper, then very, very much is possible, maybe even the semi-finals. So thank you for watching this little video. We talked about Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, African football. So will the Ivory Coast win in 2022 or 2026 the World Cup? Well, it's not impossible, but I really don't think so. But they have a great, great team. Nice to watch them. I really like to watch the games. They have the potential. They have really talented and good players. And of course, this is one of the best African teams. Thank you very much, and see you again soon. Bye.